Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Podcast. Today is Monday, August 19th, 2019. Today I'm going to recap the BMW Championship for golf and discuss some news in golf that's important. Baseball, look back on yesterday's games, look ahead to tonight's games, NFL preseason results from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we'll look ahead to tonight's 49ers-Broncos game. The AP poll came out today. I'll go over that. A big possible injury for one of the marquee teams in Major League Baseball, and my best bet of the day. We're going to start with golf, BMW Championship. Justin Thomas, the runaway winner, although it looked closer in the end, but it wasn't really that close. With the minus 25, he earned $1.7 million. Good for Justin Thomas. He was spectacular in this tournament. Second place, you had Patrick Cantlay with a score of minus 22 with an earnings of $999,000. Third place, Hideki Matsuyama with a minus 20, earning $629,000. He actually had the lead at one point and was the favorite. I believe that was on Friday night where he was the favorite. Maybe it was Thursday night. I don't remember. Fourth was Tony Finau with the minus 18, $444,000. Fifth place, Brandt Snedeker with the minus 16, earnings of $351,500. So an interesting top five, and then John Rahm tied with Snedeker too. Adam Scott was in that tie for 9th. Ricky Fowler was in a tie for 11th with Tommy Fleetwood. Rory McIlroy, Patrick Reed, Jordan Krukrak were in a tie for 19th. Xavier Schauffele, too. Tied for 24th with a disappointing minus 10. Brooks Koepka. I think that's disappointing by his standards. Gary Woodland had a minus 8, tied for 31st. You had Phil Mickelson in a tie for 48th place with the score of a minus 5. Justin Rose tied for 52nd with the score of minus 4. Tied for 57th was Dustin Johnson with a score of a minus 3. J.B. Holmes was tied for 65th, was eliminated. Tiger Woods didn't even make the cut here, and he unfortunately didn't even make the cut for the Tour Championship, which is next weekend. So that's a bummer for golf fans. Don't forget, Tiger won the Tour Championship last year, which got everybody excited and showed hints of a resurgence, which led to his big win at the Masters this year. So just a big disappointment for golf with Tiger not being involved next weekend. I'll give out a pick for that event on Thursday's podcast. I don't know if I'm going to go with Koepka again, because I feel like I've picked him every tournament this year because I just really love his game, and I think he's the most talented golfer right now. Justin Thomas is under consideration for my pick, or I might go with somebody different. You never know with me. All right, baseball. Look back on yesterday's games. The Indians defeat the Yankees 8-4 to grab a split in that series. 74-51 on the year. New York's 83-43. Mike Clevenger to win. CC Sabathia to loss. Clevenger was dominant in 5 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 10 strikeouts, ERA 3.11. CC Sabathia was not good in his IL return. 3 innings, 4 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, ERA 5.01. Red Sox over to Orioles 13-7. Red Sox were down 6-0, came from behind the win. They were 67-59. Baltimore 39-85. Marcus Walden the win, Paul Fry the loss. Walden went an inning and gave up a hit. Red Sox took lead after the inning he pitched. Nathan Eovaldi, his return to the rotation, not so good. 2 innings, 3 hits, 5 runs, 2 walks, and the strikeout ERA 6.69. Ty Block, 5 1/3 innings, 5 hits, 5 runs, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, ERA 10.61. Padres over the Phillies 3-2, so the Padres go in the Philly and take 2 out of 3. 58-65 on the year. Philly is 64-60. Joey Lucchesi to win. Jared Hughes the loss in his Phillies debut. Kirby Yates the save. Lucchesi with the quality outing, 6 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, ERA 4.2. Jason Vargas, 5 2/3 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, ERA 3.9. 9-9. Mariners over the Blue Jays 7-0. An impressive win for the Mariners, 52-73 on the year. Toronto 52-75. Yusei Kikuchi to win. Wilmer Font lost. Kikuchi, that was his best pitched game as a Mariner. The complete game, 2-hitter, no earned runs, a walk, 8 strikeouts, ERA 5.19. Wilmer Font, the opener, 2 innings, 3 hits and a run, and 3 strikeouts, ERA 3.9. Thomas Pannone in relief, 3 2/3 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, ERA 6.44. Rays over the Tigers 5-4 on a 2-run walk-off single by Ji-Man Choi. Tampa Bay is 73-52. Detroit is 37-84. Jose Alvarado with the win. Joe Jimenez the loss. Trevor Richards started for the Rays. 3 1/3 innings, 8 hits, 2 runs, a walk, 6 strikeouts, ERA 5.4. Matt Boyd, 7 innings, 2 hits and a run, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, ERA 4.24. Cardinals over the Reds 5-4. The Cardinals are 65-57. Cincinnati 58-65. Jack Flaherty to win. Alex Wood the loss. Carlos Martinez to save. Flaherty's been hot lately. 5 innings, 3 hits and a run, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, ERA 3.46. Alex Wood 5 innings, 8 hits, 4 runs, a walk, 6 strikeouts, ERA 5.92. Braves over the Dodgers 5-3. The Braves are 74-52. LA 82-44. Anthony Swarzak the win. Dustin May the loss. Mark Melancon the save. The story of this game was that Ronald Acuna Jr. was pulled after thinking he had a home run, but the ball hit the wall and it ended up being only a single, and he gets thrown out stealing or trying to steal second base. So manager Brian Snitker pulled him, and he had to talk to the media after the game and said that he has to represent the front of the jersey rather than the back of the jersey. So I have to give Snitker some credit for saying all the right things. And Acuna said all the right things after the game as well and took the blame for it. But it's very disappointing for a player with Acuna's reputation of top 3 player in baseball, top 5 player in baseball, whatever what you think of him, to not beat out a ground ball or a fly ball like that, because you never know if it's a guaranteed home run or not. So very disappointed in Ronald Acuna Jr. for that. Tony Gonsolin, 4 innings, 5 hits, an earned run, no walks, 2 strikeouts, ERA 3. Dustin May of the bullpen was disappointing. 2 innings, 3 hits, 4 runs, a walk, and no strikeouts, ERA 4.26. They took him out of the rotation to put him in the pen. I think it's because of an innings thing. But his first try of the pen was not very good. Max Fried, 5 innings, 8 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts, ERA 3.84. Nats over the Brewers 16-8. The Nationals' offense is on fire. Good way to bounce back after a crushing defeat, 15-14 in 14 innings on Saturday. Washington 67-56. Milwaukee 64-60. Eric Feed the win. Chase Anderson the loss. Feed 5 innings, 10 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. ERA 4.31. Chase Anderson 2 1/3 innings, 9 hits, 10 runs, 2 walks, no strikeout. ERA 4.54. Mets over the Royals 11-5. Mets take 2 out of 3 from KC after losing Friday night. Mets are 64-60. KC 44-80. Horacius Familia with the win. Kevin McCarthy with the loss. Zach Wheeler 5 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, a walk, 2 strikeouts. ERA 4.4. George Sparkley with the quality start. 6 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. ERA 5.4. Twins over the Rangers 6-3. Minnesota is 76-48. Texas 16-64. Sam Dyson the win. Getting charged with the loss for Texas was Emmanuel Clace, and Trevor Rogers getting the save. Martin Perez 5 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, 4 walks, 2 strikeouts. ERA 4.53. Lance Lynn 5 innings, 4 hits, 3 earned runs, 5 walks, 3 strikeouts. ERA 3.6. Rockies over the Marlins 7-6 in 10 innings on a walk-off single by Garrett Hampson. They're 57-67. Miami 45-78. Getting the win for the Rockies was Carlos Estevez, and getting the loss for Miami was Joe Brigham. Starting for Colorado in this game was Peter Lambert. Quality start for him. 6 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, a walk, 2 strikeouts. ERA 6.55. Jordan Yamamoto, 5 2/3 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, a walk, 9 strikeouts. ERA 4.31. He was really good early in the year. He has regressed of late. Angels over the White Sox 9-2. The Angels are 62-64. Chicago 55-68. Griffin Canning to win. Dylan Cease the loss. Canning 7 innings, 5 hits and a run, a walk, 8 strikeouts, rate 4.58. That guy's an ace in the making. Dylan Cease 5 innings, 7 hits, 5 runs, a walk, 6 strikeouts, rate 5.93. Astros over the Athletics 4-1. The Astros are 79-46. Oakland 71-53. Zach Greinke to win. 3-0 as an Astro. Brett Anderson the loss. Roberto Osuna the save. Greinke, a quality start, 7 innings, 4 hits and a run, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts, rate 2.37 as a Stro. Brett Anderson, 5 innings, 7 hits, 4 runs, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts, rate 4.06. Diamondbacks over the Giants 6-1. The D-backs are 62-63. San Francisco is 63-62. Merrill Kelly to win. Madison Bumgarner the loss. Kelly was pretty good. 5 2/3 innings, 6 hits and a run, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, rate 4.63. Madison Bumgarner, a bit of a stinker by his standards. 6 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, rate 3.72. In the Little League Classic, the Cubs defeat the Pirates 7-1. The Cubs go to 66-58. Pittsburgh 51-72. Jose Quintana with the win. Mitch Keller the loss. Quintana was awesome. 7 innings, 5 hits, no runs, no walks, 7 strikeouts, rate 3.91. Mitch Keller 4 and a third inning, 7 hits, 6 runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, rate 8.86. So he's not been very good on the big league level yet. Tonight's games, you have at 7 o'clock the Royals at the Orioles, so 2 of the worst teams in baseball going at it. Jorge Lopez and John Means. Nationals against the Pirates. You have Joe Ross against Trevor Williams. Mariners Rays. Marco Gonzalez and Brendan McKay. Padres Reds. Eric Lauer and Trevor Bauer. 7:45 Brewers Cardinals. Zach Davies, Dakota Hudson, so big division games there in St. Louis. 8 o'clock, you have the Angels at the Rangers. Dylan Peters against Kobe Allard. Tigers Astros. Edwin Jackson and Wade Miley. Ooh, that's a lock. White Sox Twins. Ivan Nova, Kyle Gibson. And 9:40 Rockies Diamondbacks. You have Chichi Gonzalez against Zach Gallen. So 9 games tonight on the slate, and a couple teams traveling, as some teams normally get off on Monday as a travel day. While we're on the topic of baseball, ESPN's Buster Olney reported, I believe it was yesterday, that Red Sox ace Chris Sale will be meeting with Dr. James Andrews because of his injury, his elbow injury, which is why he's on the injured list right now. So let the speculation begin about Tommy John surgery. I'm not going to talk about this very long. I'll give this a few minutes because I might actually have a Red Sox person come on the podcast this week if Sale indeed gets surgery. Maybe Terry Cushman from the Benny and the Bets podcast. So maybe I'll get Terry on and we'll talk about ramifications of this. But quickly, if he does get surgery, big loss for the Red Sox, not just as this year comes to close, but next year. And this probably changes a lot of their plans going forward, like the futures of Mookie Betts and some other pieces. So maybe this will trigger like a little short-term mini rebuild, kind of like what the Yankees went through in 2016 a little bit, and what they thought would be 2017, but they exceeded expectations and ended up making the ALCS and making some trades in season to really put themselves in a good spot to go on that run. But this is really unfortunate for the Red Sox because they would lose him, and then the rest of the rotation is full of uncertainty. David Price has been hurt a lot of late. And same with Nathan Eovaldi, and neither of those guys are consistent either. Sale has not had a good year this year. This has been by far the worst season of his career. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here with Sale. And if he gets surgery, it's just a big blow for the Red Sox, not just this year, as they were sort of trying to make the American League wildcard race a little interesting and potentially stealing a spot. But this really blows their chances of having a bounce back year next year as an organization. So a huge loss possibly for the Red Sox if Sale does have surgery. And like I said, I have Terry Cushman or somebody that's associated a little bit with the Red Sox on, and we'll talk about this in the futures of Mookie Betts and Chris Sale and really the Boston Red Sox organization too. Next up, I want to go through the football from the weekend, the preseason. Friday night, the Giants defeat the Bears 32-13. Daniel Jones continues to be the biggest story of the preseason. 11 of 14, 161 yards and a touchdown pass. He had 2 fumbles in this game as well. And I really liked his poise after the fumbles. He came back and led that touchdown drive. So good for Jones as he tries to steal Eli Manning's starting job. That would be the biggest story in sports if Daniel Jones took Eli Manning's starting job away from him. And that would probably have an outcry from the Manning family and the Giants ownership. Well, really, John Mara. And speaking of Eli Manning, he actually looked sharp on Friday night. 4 for 4, 42 yards and a touchdown pass with a quarterback rating of 150. So from a rating standpoint, he was their best quarterback on Friday night. And Jones had a rating of 138.4. Chase Daniel started for Chicago, 12 of 18, 103 yards. Rating of 81.5. In this game, you did not see Saquon Barkley. But it's precautionary, so I understand that from a Giants standpoint. And then Sterling Shepard recovering from the broken thumb. I don't think you'll see him in the preseason. Bills over the Panthers, 27-14. Matt Barkley, 8 for 10, 110 yards and a touchdown pass. Josh Allen saw some time. 9 of 11, 102 yards. Rating of 105.3, so he looked pretty good and was sacked 1 time. Will Greer, 10 of 19, 75 yards and an interception with a rating of 40.5, so he was not good. Buccaneers over the Dolphins, 16-14. Josh Rosen, 10 of 18, 102 yards, a rating of 72, so he was a little mediocre. Ryan Fitzpatrick wasn't that good, 3 of 9 for 20 yards, the rating of 42.4. If I'm the Dolphins, you should start Josh Rosen. There's a reason why you traded for him. Let's see if you got a diamond in the rough and pretty much rob the Cardinals in a way. And then on the flip side, Jameis Winston, 2 for 4, 24 yards with a rating of 68.8, so a little mediocre for him. Blaine Gabbert, 5 of 12, 42 yards, sacked twice with a rating of 51.4. And the backup quarterback for the Bucs, another good outing by Ryan Griffin, 14 of 21, 201 yards and a touchdown pass with a rating of 113.4. Saturday you had 5 games. Browns over the Colts, 21-18. You did not see Odell Beckham Jr. or Baker Mayfield in this game. But backup quarterback Garrett Gilbert looked pretty solid. 13 of 19, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns, rating of 127.3. Jacoby Brissett was really good, 8 for 10, 100 yards, and a touchdown pass, rating of 141.7. Chad Kelly, 12 of 17, 115 yards, and a touchdown pass, rating of 108.7. The Patriots defeat the Titans 22-17. Marcus Mariota did see some time, 6 of 9, 63 yards, and a touchdown pass, rating of 123.8, so he looked good. Ryan Tannehill actually looked pretty good too, 7-11, 84 yards, and a touchdown pass, rating of 117.2. Brian Hoyer, 6 or 8, 55 yards, and an interception, rating of 53.6, so he wasn't very good. Jarrett Stidham was very good, 14 of 19, 193 yards, and a touchdown, rating of 123.4. Steelers over the Chiefs, 17-7. Chad Henne, 7 of 14, 96 yards and a touchdown pass, rating of 96.1. Patrick Mahomes, I'm not going to overreact, 2 for 5, 11 yards, 47.9 QBR. So I'm not going to overreact to that. It's the preseason. Rating MVP. That guy just needs to get out of there healthy as far as I'm concerned. Meanwhile, for Pittsburgh, you did not see Ben Roethlisberger. Mason Rudolph, 10 for 15, 77 yards. Sacked once, rating of 79. Josh Dobbs, 6 of 11, 95 yards and a pick, rating of 45.6, so he wasn't good at all. Texans over the Lions, 30-23. The Texans, Deshaun Watson saw some time in this game. 5 for 7, 60 yards and a touchdown, rating of 136.9, so he looks sharp and ready to go. And Webb, their backup, 14 of 25, 186 yards, a touchdown and a pick, rating of 76.4. Backup quarterback for the Lions, David Fales, 12 of 19, 226 yards and a touchdown, rating of 121.8. Cowboys over the Rams, 14-10. Cooper Rush had a nice performance for Dallas, 10 of 16, 83 yards and a touchdown, rating of 96.6. Dak Prescott was sharp, 5 for 5, 64 yards, rating of 118.8. You did not see Jared Goff, but you saw Blake Bortles, 7 of 11, 62 yards and a touchdown, rating of 108.9, so he looked pretty good. Yesterday we had two games that were on TV, actually. CBS had Saints-Chargers, and the Saints came out on top, 19-17. Taysom Hill really had a good impression in the preseason. 11 of 15, 136 yards and 2 touchdowns, ratings of 140.6. There's some talk that he could be the future replacement for Drew Brees and not Teddy Bridgewater. And Bridgewater was not good at all. 5 for 12, 40 yards and an interception with a rating of 16. You did not see Phillip Rivers, but you did see Cardell Jones, 10 of 14, 111 yards and a touchdown, rating of 118.5. Tyrod Taylor, 7 of 10, 57 yards and a pick, rating of 44.6. And Easton Stick, 5 of 13, 62 yards and a pick, and the pick was at the very end of the game as they were trying to make a game-winning drive. He had a rating of 22. Vikings over the Seahawks, 25-19. Kirk Cousins looked sharp in his limited action. 6 of 8, 68 yards, a rating of 100. Kyle Sloter looked good, the backup quarterback. 11 of 13, 116 yards and a touchdown, rating of 129.5. And Sean Mannion, 11 of 14, 88 yards, a touchdown and the pick, rating of 86.9, so he wasn't that terrible either. Russell Wilson started, 6 of 9, 82 yards, rating of 95.6. Paxton Lynch, 6 of 15, 67 yards, rating of 54. He's been one of the bigger bust quarterbacks over the last 5-10 years in the NFL. JT Barrett, 0 for 3 and a pick with a rating of 0. JT Barrett, Ohio State Buckeyes cast-off quarterback. And tonight you have the Broncos hosting the 49ers, 8 o'clock on ESPN. Joe Tessitore on the call with Booger McFarland. So you'll see a little bit more Drew Lock, I guess. Maybe Joe Flacco plays a series. I'm interested to see if Jimmy Garoppolo gets some reps tonight. Another storyline to watch here is the backup quarterback job for the 49ers, because Garoppolo has been injury-prone throughout his career so far. C.J. Beathard or Nate Mullins, who wins that? Both those guys had moments last week against Dallas. Mullins had moments throughout last season to really gauge some value. And then Beathard's had some moments so far, too, in his brief career. I remember he had a big game against the Giants. It wasn't last year, it was the year before. Mullins started against the Giants this past year on Monday Night Football, that they lost to Eli and company last year, as Eli led a game-winning drive in San Francisco last year. And then Beathard creamed up the Giants secondary 2 years ago. That's when he had his finest moment. But both those guys are actually solid backups, but not really starting caliber quarterbacks. So that's why the backup job for the 49ers should be interesting to watch, because both these guys are actually not bad in terms of backup quarterbacks. So that's another storyline. Will we see Philip Lindsay? Will we see Matt Berea? Will we see Richard Sherman? There's a lot of big names on both of these teams, on both offense and defense. And then Broncos defense, Von Miller, Bradley Chubb. Do you see any of those guys? So a lot of big names on both sides of the ball in this game. So it should be a good one to watch on ESPN tonight. Next up, the AP poll was released today in college football. So I want to go through that real quick. You had Clemson at 1, getting 52 of the 62 votes. And the other 10 first place votes went to the second place team, Alabama. Let's face it, those two were locked to be 1-2. Clemson deserves it over Alabama because Clemson won the title last year. They have more coming back than Alabama. Both these teams are going to be great again. Alabama actually lost one of its freshman running backs for the season. I don't know how much they had hopes for him in terms of this season because they like to develop their guys. Bama, I'm talking about, in terms of their freshmen. And they really don't have impact freshmen, really. It's more of their upperclassmen that really are the impact guys for them. So I don't know how big of a loss that will prove to be. So Alabama's 2, and they had 10 first-place votes. Number 3 is Georgia. Not that much far behind Alabama in this poll. 93 points back. That's going to be a fun battle this year in the SEC. I'm going to try to get Nick Costos on at the end of the week talking about college football and the NFL and our favorite picks. So maybe we'll do some college football conference bets and whatnot. 4 is Oklahoma. Jalen Hurts transfers over, so we'll see if an Oklahoma quarterback for the third year in a row wins the Heisman. Ohio State's 5. They have Justin Fields, the former Georgia quarterback. That team should be improved. And Ryan Day, I think there's some pressure on him to deliver right away, a la Lincoln Riley for Oklahoma. So, some pressure there. LSU is 6. Expectations are high. Ed Orgeron's a good coach. But my theory with LSU is that whenever they are expected to do a lot, they underachieve. And whenever expectations are low for LSU, like last year, they overachieve. So we'll see where it falls for LSU. They have a good defense and a good coach. Joe Burrow showed flashes last year to be a good college quarterback, so we'll see with LSU. 7's Michigan. Some expectations are high for Jim Harbaugh's team, but they still have yet to beat Ohio State with Jim Harbaugh at the helm. Shea Patterson's back. 8 is Florida. I'm not sold on Florida being a contender like some others are. Felipe Franks, to me, is a little erratic at quarterback. They have a good defense, and I like Dan Mullen a lot. 9 is Notre Dame. They're a team that made the playoff last year. I think that there's a chance that they finish higher than 9th in the AP poll. And that's because that they have a tough schedule on their hands, and I just think that they have a lot coming back from a team that made the playoff a year ago. Yeah, they do lose Dexter Williams. That's a loss, but I think that they're going to still be very good. 10, it's Texas. Texas is a solid team coming into this year. Expectations are high for Todd Herman. 11 is Oregon. Justin Herbert's back for his senior year after many people thought he was going to be going to the draft last year. And they have a historic freshman class coming in, led by that stud Thibodeau, whatever his name is, but he's supposed to be a stud. This is a head-scratcher ranking to me. 12 is Texas A&M. I love Jimbo Fisher. He's a great coach. He was great at Florida State. He's moved on, obviously, to A&M, and the Aggies, to me, are an interesting team that I think could have a ceiling of 9 wins, but a basement of 7-5, 6-6. So I think that expectations are a little bit high for A&M, but I can see them meeting, and I think there's a world that they can live up to expectations. 13's Washington. I think this team should be higher. I'm a big fan of Jacob Eason. He lost his starting job to Jake Fromm, obviously, a few years ago, and that's why he transferred. It's not that he's a bad quarterback. I think he's a very good quarterback. And some of those Pac-12 defenses are Swiss cheese, so I think that he will have some impact on that team, and they have a good defense, and Chris Peterson's one hell of a coach, and their schedule is very favorable this year. So I wouldn't rule out the possibility of the Huskies being a dark horse contender for the college football playoff this year. 14's Utah. That's another dark horse college football playoff contender. Another team with a very favorable schedule and a good home field advantage. Kyle Whittingham is a great coach. Their quarterback's coming back. They have a good running back returning too. So I think the two best teams in the Pac-12 could be Washington and Utah, and Oregon not being one of the best too, although they have the best quarterback in the conference. 15, Penn State. I think there's a chance that the Lions take a step back this year because of a lot of things that they lost, like Trace McSorley and Miles Sanders. But James Franklin's a good coach, and they have a good recruiting class. 16, Auburn. I like the Tigers. I think that Gus Malzahn's a good coach. And they're like LSU in the sense of that whenever their expectations are high, they underachieve, and whenever expectations are low, they overachieve. So it should be interesting with Auburn this year and how they do. 17, UCF, the best group of 5 team coming into this year. Their starting quarterback this year is going to be transferred from Notre Dame, Brandon Wimbush, who showed some flashes. And I think that his numbers will see an increase because of more Swiss cheese defenses in the AAC. So maybe you'll see some improvement from Wimbush. And there's a lot of talent on that team too. And they have a big game against Stanford early in the season. That's a big prove-it game for them. Michigan State's 18. I like the Spartans. And they've always had a good infrastructure since they really have started to challenge Ohio State a few years back. They have a darn good head coach. And I think that there's a chance that that could be an upset special team down the road in the season. 19's Wisconsin. I think this is the favorite to win the Big Ten West this year. I think that Paul Chryst is a hell of a coach. Jonathan Taylor's coming back. They have a quarterback upgrade, and they have a favorable schedule. 20, Iowa. This is another team that I think is going to be good this year. They're always an upset special team. You see them upset Ohio State a few years ago. Almost upset Penn State. But Trace McSorley and Saquon Barkley and Mike Gesicki, that tight end now of the Miami Dolphins, really led the way. That game-winning drive a few years ago. So Iowa could have had another upset there. And this was a team that made the Big Ten title game in 2015. So Kirk Fentz is a good coach, and I think that big things could be in store for them this year too. 21 is Iowa State. I think Iowa State is better than Iowa. So that is a ranking I disagree with. Matt Campbell's a hell of a coach. I think that's the next big name coach to move in terms of like Todd Herman from a few years ago. Like everyone thought it was a lock he was leaving Houston and he goes to Texas. I think we could see a similar scenario of Matt Campbell. If Iowa State is good and they win 10 games or so, then you could see Matt Campbell on the move to a bigger job like USC or something like that. 22 is Syracuse. Syracuse should be good this year. They have a good quarterback in Tommy DeVito. Debo Babers is a good coach. I think that could be an upset special school too. Maybe they upset Clemson this year, but I doubt it. We need to see some injuries and whatnot, but Syracuse should be good. 23, Washington State. Head scratcher ranking to me. That was a team that overachieved in a big way a year ago. They have a very good coach in Mike Leake, who always gets a lot out of his teams. I think he's an underrated coach there in the Pac-12. 24 is Nebraska. Expectations are very high for this team. Adrian Martinez, the sophomore quarterback, is being labeled as a Heisman dark horse. I don't know if I agree with that. It kind of reminds me of Khalil Tate from Arizona, another dark horse Heisman candidate from a few years ago that really didn't perform. So kind of worried about the dark horse Heisman buzz getting to Martinez and that team a little bit. I don't even think they're the favorites to win their own division. I think that's Wisconsin. And 25 is Stanford, who some folks are down on this year. I really don't like to doubt David Shaw. He's a hell of a coach. They produce a lot of good defensive players and some good running backs over the last few years. And it should be interesting to see how they do this year, because this is a team that, like a few other teams I mentioned from the SEC and Auburn and LSU, they normally do better when expectations are lowered. But it's weird. Their Vegas over-under is like 6.5, and they're ranked 25th in the AP poll. So there's a little bit of disagreement between Vegas and how writers and voters in the country feel about Stanford. And others receiving votes, Missouri, that should be an improved team, even though that they have a bowl ban, so that could be a distraction for them. Army, a lot of people are high on Army this year. That's a team that could go 11-1, potentially. Mississippi State, Joe Moorhead, we'll see about them. They have some votes. Miami, some people like them to upset Florida in week 1. I don't know if I'm in that boat, but they should be improved with the new coach. Northwestern's in there. Pat Fitzgerald always gets a lot out of his players. That's another school. Expectations are lowered, and they normally do better. Don't forget they were in the Big Ten title game last year. TCU is a team that I think can be better than expected. Virginia, there's a lot of love there. They have that quarterback, Bryce Perkins. A lot of people are picking them to win the Coastal. I do not think that I'm going to be in that camp. Boise State is one of the better group of 5 teams. There's some people that think that they can upset Florida State week 1. I don't know if I'm in that boat. Cincinnati is a team that from the group of 5 that I think will be improved this year. South Carolina has a hard schedule, but they somehow got votes for the AP poll. Virginia Tech is a team that I think it could go either way for them. Fresno State had a good year last year. Utah State also had a good year last year. Minnesota, some people like to win the Big Ten West. Memphis, a lot of folks are high on, and they have a high win total in Vegas of 9.5. Favorable schedule, too. Appalachian State's been a good group of 5 team over the last few years. West Virginia's a head-scratcher to me. They have a new coach in Neil Brown, and they lost a lot of pieces from last year. And I really like Dana Holgorsen. I think that he's going to do a great job with Houston. And I know he left. He wasn't fired from West Virginia. He just left for another job. And I like Neil Brown. He did a great job with Troy. He got that program on the right path in terms of group of 5. But this is the Big 12. Maybe this is the next Matt Campbell in the Big 12. So you never know. I could be wrong, because Matt Campbell obviously turned Toledo into a better group of 5 school, and it went to Iowa State and turned Iowa State into a good school. And Iowa State was a dumpster fire. West Virginia, on the flip side, was not a dumpster fire. They were in bowl games over the last 5-6 years or so, pretty much every year during Dana Holgorsen's tenure with the Mountaineers. But we'll see. I like Neil Brown, but maybe he does become Matt Campbell in that scenario. But the difference, obviously, is that Iowa State was a dumpster fire before Campbell got there, and West Virginia was making bowl games with Dana Holgorsen. So we'll see. They probably should be a bowl team this year, but their schedule isn't that favorable to them. Although they have some good teams coming to Morgantown this year, so maybe they'll pick off a few teams, or maybe some teams underachieve and they get lucky. Who knows? Because I remember a few years ago, expectations were low for the Mountaineers, and then they overachieved and got game day in Morgantown. I believe that was 2014. They played TCU. TCU overachieved that year too. No one expected TCU to be good that year either. And I remember TCU beat the Mountaineers on a field goal. So we'll see what happens in the Big 12 with a bunch of those schools that have new coaches. Texas Tech's another team that has a new coach. They hired the former Utah State coach to run their program. And Kansas State has another school in the Big 12 with a new coach too. So that's a sneaky storyline from the Big 12. All these new coaches with West Virginia, Texas Tech, and Kansas State. So the middle of the Big 12 with new coaches. Another Big 12 team in here, Oklahoma State. That's a team I think people are sleeping on. Mike Gundy is a good coach, and I think that's a dark horse candidate to win double-digit games if things break right. UAB's on this list. They had a good year last year, but the schedule's harder for them, and they lose some pieces on that team. Arizona State folks are high on. Herm Edwards overachieved in year 1. We'll see what year 2 brings. Arizona, they have questions at quarterback with Khalil Tate's health. And they also have Kevin Sumlin there, who had some good teams with Texas A&M. We'll see if he eventually turns it around with Arizona. And USC got a vote. USC, obviously unranked in the preseason for the first time since 2001. That school is like a mess. Cliff Kingsbury is supposed to be their offensive coordinator, and then he went to the Cardinals to be their new head coach. There's no coach on a hotter seat in sports, perhaps right now, than the man who's running things in Southern California. And I'm obviously talking about Clay Helton. That guy might be fired before Halloween if they don't win some big games here in September. And then you're going to be hearing Matt Campbell to USC all year, or Urban Meyer to USC all year. And Urban Meyer's the one that people want because obviously he's doing Fox's new show this year, and then that's where all those rumors are going to come in. Fox, obviously, their studios are in California, and he's going to be a lead analyst on their show, and that's obviously the tie-in there, the whole California thing. But I don't think Urban Meyer will be the new head coach at USC. Matt Campbell, I think, is a distinct possibility for them down the road if they do indeed fire Clay Helton. And the coaches poll, real quickly: Clemson, Alabama; Georgia, Oklahoma, Ohio State; LSU, Michigan, Florida; Notre Dame, Texas; Texas A&M, Washington, Oregon; Penn State, Utah; Auburn, UCF; Wisconsin. Those two are tied for 17. Iowa, Michigan State, Washington State, Syracuse; Stanford, Iowa State; Northwestern. So Northwestern ranked in the coaches poll is interesting. Oregon being below Washington is interesting. Oh, Utah's 15. Never mind. I almost said Utah wasn't ranked. So Utah is ranked in there, but it's Washington that the coaches poll thinks is the top team in that conference. So we'll talk more college football as the weeks go. The season starts, ironically, this upcoming weekend. You have game day from Disney World's Magic Kingdom. That's going to be awesome. Hopefully I get Nick Costos on the podcast either Thursday or Friday. I have to hit him up and see when he's available because I know he has a new podcast debuting this week, and I'm really looking forward to that as well. All right, best bet of the day brought to you by DraftKings. Some interesting selections on the board for tonight. I mentioned a couple minutes ago that I thought a certain game was a lock. And, of course, I'm talking about the Astros against the Tigers because, obviously, Wade Miley is a much better pitcher than Edwin Jackson, and Edwin Jackson is the worst pitcher in baseball. So, any chance you have to bet against Edwin Jackson, then you just do it, no matter who the opponent is. And I'm going to take the Nationals on the road at Pittsburgh. The Nats are just on fire, so why not? I'm going to go with the Reds and Trevor Bauer. It's a risky pick, but I'm going to take it anyway. I'm going to go with the Cardinals at home against the Brewers. That's a risky one. I'm avoiding the Rays because I really just haven't trusted that team lately, and they stopped hitting. Brendan McKay hasn't pitched well of late, although Marco Gonzalez is something that's erratic. I'm going to go with the Twins at home against the White Sox, although Nova's pitched well of late. I just don't trust Nova on the road. Wade Miley and the Stros, and then I'm going to go with the Diamondbacks at home against the Rockies. So that's 6 teams, 14, 18 odds, wagering $1, payout of $15.18. That's it for the podcast today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping all the baseball games, looking ahead to tomorrow night's games. I'm going to do baseball power rankings for the first time in a long time and talk about where some teams are and what's left in these last 6 weeks of the regular season for some of these teams, possible September call-ups, and more. I hope you guys have a great day, everybody.